Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to 3D Hangouts. I'm Matt Griffin, coming to you live from the heart of the Adafruit factory here in New York City. And with me, as always, are Noe and Pedro Ruiz at Adafruit South. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Matt. Hey, everybody home. I'm Noe Ruiz, designer here at Adafruit. Joining me is Pedro.
Hello, guys. What's going on? I'm Pedro Ruiz, creative technologist here at Adafruit.
Yeah, we got quite a show, right? Lots of show today.
We got a lot to get to. It's going to be a really fun night. So we get together every week here, and we hang out, and we share about the latest in 3D printing news, designs from the Adafruit workbench, projects from the community, and all sorts of resources to help you make better 3D printed projects with electronics. So let's go right into the show today. So we have sections. Go for it.
Yeah.
So let's go over segments.
The first segment, what are you prototyping? We'll take a look at what's going on in the works. We'll jump into some 3D news. We've got a weekly video for you, a layer-by-layer segment where we talk about some CAD tips, 3D field guide, I believe.
Yep, it's going to be a roundup of some 3D Halloween stuff. So we're going to share some neat 3D coming to you from the various repos, all the neat Halloween stuff from this year.
Very cool.
What have you guys been prototyping?
Yeah, sure. So let's take a look at the detailed cam here. We got some Halloween stuff, Halloween goods. This is a couple pumpkins from the Makey Labs, right?
Yeah. So we're going to put these in the bushes so we can have some little eyes peering in for all the trick-or-treaters, make it look like it's spooky. Also got a couple of 3D printed goodies from
3D Hit Bash, or better known as Quincy on Thingiverse. He has some amazing designs. We definitely check him out on Thingiverse.
Yeah, there's really great little latches here.
And you also got a mask. You want to show us that mask real quick?
Yeah, so this is sort of a last-minute sort of
last
print.
Minute, right?
Yeah, so it takes about 3 hours to do. And it's a cool little mask from Spirit Away.
Yeah, so what's cool about this design is that the designer made this to be machined with sort of with the CNC and wood, but it's optimized and cut up already. It really works with 3D printer. So no support material required here. It's in 3 pieces. You just glue them together and paint it up. Add a little band there, to elastic band, and you got yourself a really sweet-looking mask. Another cool thing is another one from 3D Kit Bash. This is like a little ghost, but check this out. It's got a long tongue, so it's a little mechanical design. Very, very.
And that's from one of their series that are various calibration tools for your printer, so you can see how all the various types of things you might do on your desktop 3D printer work out. They did 2 sets. That's from the graphics one, right? And there's some really neat stuff from, sort of simple tests that are just pure on tests for how it works, all the way to designs like that do mechanical things.
I don't understand.
The Taz fans. We also updated the fans on our Taz bot to allow better PLA printing. So here we.
Oh, so you're printing the actual mask right here. Wonderful.
Yeah. So we have a really extreme overhang here. We had to tune down the fan speed to 30% to allow it to not completely cool all the way, but we're printing some pretty extreme overhangs here with a second fan. We designed a smaller one that can fit on the left side of your extruder, and the files will be available later today on Thingiverse and 123D Gallery.
Oops. Very cool.
Some cool little things that we're prototyping, working on. Of course, we got our little Boo candy bowl dish. You also get on our
yeah, we'll have to put that on
page.
Thingiverse later today.
Very cool. So that's some of the things we're prototyping.
Yeah, and Matt.
And I refined my little Octoprint dev rig, which is just a nice, handy project made entirely of items that were returned or slightly broken from the Adafruit store. The Adafruit store is an amazing place to go to grab stuff for your Octoprint ventures, because it's a chance to automate almost anything about your printing, both the queue and the preparation for stuff coming into your printer, and tasks to trigger for after you're done printing. So I added a couple of things like thermal printer, playing around with adding a soundboard and some other elements. So it's all set to go, and I can plug it right into the various printers and run them. So.
I like how every week we come back to this project. It's like, oh, here's a little bit of update. Here's this. It's really going to be a really nice rig.
Yeah, the gold nugget with this, the thermal printer. I love how you can print out your settings and sort of just stick on to your print, like what's on there when you're doing prototypes. Awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to exchange ideas for how to format that text to be pretty at like what 32 characters across or whatever.
No sand arrow.
Cool. So that's what we're prototyping. Very good stuff. Matt, do you want to jump right into news?
I'd love to.
Alrighty.
Okay. So we always have our little roundup of what's going to be on the show sitting there for you at 2 p.m. And some really interesting stuff this week. This one that already caused one of my team members to sort of, react very strongly to this huge, close view of a spider.
Arachnophobia.
So some researchers who are looking into jumping spiders, which are unique among spiders in that they see very well, and they can jump and land, and they have vision that is quite similar to human vision, apparently, in its quality. Well, in order to test the, how they process sight and that sort of thing, they were doing these really close analysis pieces on these tiny spiders. And guess what happens if you puncture them in any way? They explode.
Oh, wow.
So, I think they just won the internet, these scientists, with their creation of a 3D printed harness for jumping spiders so that they won't explode while they analyze them. I think that's just completely insane. And sort of in that line, there's some other interesting science projects. Here's a visualization of how a fruit fly brain works. Make sure I have that muted. Yeah. So it's just a visualization, but it is a really interesting way to kind of learn about that process. So take a look at that. You watch that video, and you can go read more about that 3D science.
Of course, we're using NeoPixels to do the light up patterns there.
Of course, as you must. And another science-related discovery in the world of forensics. This is a way to 3D scan and work with a 3D printed skull for reconstruction, something that you use as much for archaeology as you do for crime forensics. This process, when you work with an actual skull, tends to destroy the skull. So this is a huge improvement to go on and start with a totally accurate replica of the skull that you can damage, and you could even have more than one artist working on it at once. Because these, the image, the final rendering, it's still an interpretation, which is one of the ways it's been sort of a shame to lose that skull in the process of trying to get close.
Great for education, yeah.
And here this is a service for reverence that is offering extremely unique 3D printed urns so that people have memorabilia for their loved ones that physically reminds them more of the person that they want to remember than would like a standard urn that you might get. And these designs are quite interesting. Culturally, it's quite interesting to think about, okay, well, how does this fit into my real life? What would I really do with the people in my life? But their examples so far are really quite gorgeous.
Yeah, definitely eco-friendly. Let's not stop burying things with embalming fluid into the ground.
That is true. I highly recommend that you take a look at this project. So this was an example project that I think I saw over in 3D printing industry earlier. But you can go to this artist's site, Dennis Haroon, and he did a very in-depth, step-by-step of his entire process of going from this 2D image, this kind of like rough idea he had, making it out in 3D software, producing it, finishing it, painting it. It's quite a masterclass in how to execute unique art projects. It was really difficult to fabricate another way, all the way from sketch to final thing.
Very cool.
And another more design-heavy, like design world decor project are these great lamps from France that are using this lace pattern that they custom designed for each one. Here's Land and Sky, 2 from the series. And they're designed to throw these incredible shadow prints across the room. These designs are wonderful for both the object that you have, the actual lamp, and the casting. I'm totally obsessed with these.
That was so cool. Totally fit the mood for any theme.
And there's a couple more things I'm going to go past most of them for right now, but just point at this one. Andreas Bastian shared an Instructable for something he's been messing around with. You might have seen in various feeds in the past of sort of combining 3D printing and 3D mold making for things to attach to 3D prints. In this case, Suguru. This is a handy tutorial for how to print both something you need structurally strong, like this 3D printed finger part, and a little casting that fits around it that helps you to join, in this case, Suguru, to that original printed part, so you can have the benefits of both materials.
Yeah, very clever.
There are more things on the blog today. You have to check it out. It ended up being a lively week. But that's all we'll focus on today. Let's go right into the weekly project.
Right on. Give me a sec to switch cameras. We're going to take a close look at the project and talk a little bit about it before we debut the video here. So this is one of those projects where Lady Ada Lamore requests it, and it was developed. The software was developed by Philip Burgess. And it's actually inspired by Corey Archangel, and you'll remember one of his projects was the Super Mario Clouds. So in this project, we're using the new Pro Trinket microcontroller, which is a relatively affordable, small, bite-sized microcontroller, and the 1.4 TFT color display. It's actually a 128 pixel display, but the cool thing about that is that it has actually a micro SD card that's built into it, so you can actually put photos. Maybe you want to make like a cool picture frame or something. And the other cool thing about it is that we're using the Pro Trinket Li-Poly backpack, which makes it so that we don't have to take the battery out. We can leave the battery in there and recharge the circuit using the USB connector that's on the Pro Trinket. So the sketch behind this, like I said, it was developed by Philip B, and it's using the Adafruit GFX library, the ST7735 library, and actually communicates over SPI. So let's just go ahead and take a look at some code. We'll call it the code bubble here.
Thank you, Code Bubble.
Yeah, thank you, Code Bubble. Let's go to that. So this is the guide on the Adafruit Learning System. This is where all the code and the instructions live. So I just want to take a look at some of the comments that Phil wrote here. So this is the scrolling cloud pendant for Adafruit's Pro Trinket and the ST7735R display. Like I said, it was inspired by Corey Archangel's Super Mario Clouds. And unfortunately, this is not a good learning example for the GFX library, but it's interesting to note that to achieve the fast frame rates, the code does some horrible, irresponsible things, bypassing the GFX library, issuing commands and data directly to the LCD driver. It's hard-coded for specific control pins, not portable to other displays or other such crimes. But Philby goes on to say that definitely check out the ST7735R library for better role models. And as a part of the optimization strategy, everything is actually drawn sideways. The clouds scroll up, not across, and you have to sort of mount the TFT and rotate it to compensate for that. So he goes on to comment every single little line, so if you do want to check it out, it is all there, lovely formatting here, and just want to quickly look at that. Look, that's all the code that makes the cloud library work, the little cloud animations. So with that, let's go ahead and just take a look at the rest of the project that makes it up. All right, Pedro, you want to tell us who's wearing this right here? A little bit about
like in almost every project we have a lovely wife here, Brandy, modeling it. You can dress up as Princess Peach if you'd like, to go along with the Halloween costume. So it's a Game Boy theme inspired into a two-piece design here. And the Pro Trinket LiPo backpack for a small little project like this. Stays enclosed. You can recharge this guy without having to disassemble the whole thing, rip the battery out. We have a built-in on and off switch. All we have to do is break the trace here on the LiPo backpack to enable that.
Yeah, I have a little footage of here. There it is, turning on with the vibration sensor. There's the Pro Trinket, and the cool thing about the Li-Poly backpack, it is designed to fit on top of the Pro Trinket, making it really condensed and small.
Of course, you can separate these if you like, but it works really good as a nice little sandwich circuit.
And here we're just breaking the trace because it's designed with a slide switch in mind, so you can turn it on and off.
Our favorite new silicone-coated wires here, the 30 gauge. super bendable, flexible. We've completely stopped using all of the wire wrap in favor of these little guys. So check out the circuit diagram for a full tutorial, the step-by-step instruction. You're definitely going to have to measure all these little guys out, measure 3 times, cut twice, because once you've soldered these guys in, the length of it does change just a little bit. So you're able to make sure you have a nice, tight little sandwich in there. And we're using these awesome little ESD tweezers for getting all the little wiring around. And I'm also using it actually to handle all of the circuitry, so I don't have my fat finger trying to get into the enclosure. It's a very tight little space that we have in there.
Yep.
So the 2 pieces take about 2 hours to print in PLA, no support material, and in the layer by layer we'll go over some of the tricks that chamfers that we added into the design so it can just print in the air. TFT display is mounted into the enclosure with machine screws. We're using number 440 Phillips screws here.
The slide switch just kind of slides into place, and it's got these cool little clips that keep everything in. So when your thumb pushes it, it doesn't get pushed into the enclosure.
And we're using tiny little buttons here for the finishing details, small yet important to the design. It's very much like a Think Geek approach to electronics, make it very friendly, user inside a nice little package, so very user-friendly.
And big shout out to Phil B for the amazing development on the software. You can get the libraries of the code for this on the guide on the Adafruit Learning System, and we're planning to do some more collaborative projects that are in the works. Yeah, so be looking for that.
Print it, make it, wear it,
yeah,
repeat.
That's a cool little thing there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the layer by layer segment here. Bounce that up there. One second. We're almost there.
There we go.
There we go. Got that.
All right, so let's take a look at the design file that we actually include with this project. You can download this for free on our 123D gallery. This is a fun little weekend project that'll get you familiar with soldering smaller components into such a tiny space. The 3D files are editable, and you can adjust it to different tolerances for your printer, or if you're using a different resolution. So the Mario Cloud pendant includes the mounting geometry for the monitor, just in case you want to just use that and add it onto a different project.
I'll just note, this is what it looks like when you open the project. Don't be alarmed, like things look like they may be everything, but everything sort of goes from left to right. You start up on the left, that's where the mounting holes are, so you can actually take that widget and put it in any of your other projects.
And speaking of widgets, the widgets we use for this project are the slide switch, the interior USB buttons, and of course the mountings for the monitor. So we always include all the original geometry, so you can go ahead and update these to your liking. So let's say you didn't want the
slide switch
USB
at the
port.
bottom, yeah.
So you wanted it on the top, you can easily just select these 2 guys here, do a 180-degree rotation on them, and then just simply move them up to the top there. You'll of course have to update the wiring in the trinket and the TFT monitor, but it's very easy to do. It's just going to be different lengths and switching the orientation of that. You can definitely take a look at that.
And then I guess next you'll show us sort of your process for making a manifold design. Now coming from like the visual effects world, you really wouldn't have to worry about too much about creating a manifold design. What that means is that you really have to have a model that's completely merged in one object. When you're doing visual effects stuff, it's okay to have like separate objects and things, but when you print that out, we found
intersecting lines will have complete holes in them, and a lot of your geometry won't be attached together.
They won't be fused, which is kind of weird, but that's sort of the way of 3D printing, is that that last step of making a manifold design. So here's sort of the order of operations that you have to do to make this print nicely.
Yeah, so some of the voids for the standoffs, because they're in the way of the USB ports, we'll have to actually do the cutouts for the standoffs first before we start merging everything into the main enclosure design. So once we've done that, we can go ahead and combine the little clips for the slide switch, the outer walls of the USB port, and then go ahead and we can start in subtracting from the model. So we'll start off with the little details that make up the front face, the hole for the TFT monitor, slide switch, and the port hole here.
For USB, yeah?
So for FDM, we made did a little research on what the smallest sort of resolution that we could sort of have these small details. So the iconic little grills here for the
the speaker
speakers.
holes. Okay.
Yeah, we made them. I think the smallest where you could still get really good detail on is 1.5 millimeters. So that's how deep we are pushing these up against the enclosure.
How thick is the enclosure, real quick?
Enclosure is 1.5 millimeters thick for the shell when you're shelling this out if you wanted to recreate it yourself.
Okay.
And it's sort of that sweet spot where it's still small and still maintains a great deal of strength.
Yeah, it's durable.
So for the speaker grill here,
I think you're going to show us something else here. This,
yeah,
the
so
slide switch.
So one of the ways that we're able to print this without any support is adding a chamfer to the bottom of the clips for the slide switch. So we did here, as you can kind of see there, I think it's a 1.5 mil radius for that.
Cool, and that makes it so that the two pieces print without any support.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and look at the back cover for this now. Okay. And again, of course, we can increase the loop that we can attach our slip ring up to. Looks like we always use the little ones, but if you want to use a bigger one and add it to a chain, those are definitely editable there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then moving on to the
cover standoff?
The cover standoff, which actually is mounted directly to inside of the LiPo backpack mounting hole there. Okay. So to give that sort of support, we have a little standoff on the bottom that sort of guides the screw down into the LiPo backpack. Again, if you're going to rotate the slide switches, I would definitely select this along with it, just so you can have the positioning rotate along with it. Because it's such a small little package, we actually had to do some subtraction inside of the lip that holds the cover into the enclosure. We had to do some subtraction on that lip there so that the slide switch and the USB port don't go crashing into it.
Oh, you get that bulge effect, huh?
Yeah, and so to eliminate that bulge effect, we actually had to create a little 9 millimeter pillar that acts sort of like a latch that butts up against the wall of the enclosure and sort of latches on, sort of grabs onto there, so it doesn't create such a bulge. Cool. And of course, for having a flushed screw on the top, we're using a 2 millimeter chamfer on the top here, so that the screw can go in all the way without having any other, so it doesn't catch onto your persons or anything like that. Of course, all the files are available on. Whoop, forgot one thing.
Oh, the most important thing.
Yeah, the tiny little buttons.
Looking, huh?
Yeah, so it's the smallest little details that sort of make this guy up. And again, resolution testing on this, it's 1.5 millimeters tall. And the chamfer, or actually the fillet that we're using for the top here to sort of give it a nice little bevel effect is 0.5.
Yeah, let's just take a look at the bevels and just see how it's literally 2 layers that make this thing nice and smooth.
And we're using regular old super glue here. I think it's one of the time-controlled super glues that give you enough time to sort of position these the way you want.
Yeah.
And
wake it up. Give it a little shake.
Shake it up. Yeah, definitely check out the 123 gallery for all of the original solids, so you can edit to your heart's content, print out a bigger one, or completely use different components in it.
Yeah,
all up to you.
I encourage you to check out the guide if you want to build your own. The code and all the design files that Pedro was saying, and there's lots of lovely photos of the build process, so you can literally build it yourself at home or at work, or your makerspace, wherever you may be.
Right,
Matt, what do you think?
I really love that project. I actually was sitting next to Corey Archangel at HarvestWorks back when he was first working on that project.
Oh wow!
Before he became the international superstar artist that he is today.
I believe Corey was also one of Becky's students.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, very possible. Yeah. He's really great, and that project was really neat. He actually it wasn't just a design project. I mean, it was a hardware project. He
actually
that as a cartridge that really performed that. So it's a great project. Speaking of projects that people are creating out in the world, I wanted to share some of the stuff that we've been excited about that's Halloween related, and give you some ideas. if not things for you to actually produce this year, things for you to learn from, take a look at, so that you can have ideas for designs that you create. So first of all, there are two just massively epic replica gun projects from the Destiny game this past week. They're both from Destiny, and here is one from Kirby Downey. This is an over 4-foot gun. It's called the Thunderlord, which is fantastic. And you can see. I mean, it's. I couldn't even like sort of get it to look good in my little slideshow. It's tremendous. So go and take a look at it. He has it up on My Mini Factory, and you can see a lot of process development shots. This is a really neat project, and we had already highlighted him before for this Duke. Oh, whoops! It's not from this gun. So go, take a look at this. This is something we shared from a couple weeks ago. So he keeps going through and trying to do these kinds of projects. And this one is neat also because in order to construct something of this size and scale, he used a bunch of different materials. There's some Ninja Flex. There's some, let's see here, carbon fiber material, that sort of, so it's light enough but really strong. And I think this project in particular is getting a lot of people in the cosplay, costuming, and replica prop world excited about multi-material printers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just take a look at some of the specs, how much filament was actually used in this, the construction of this.
A couple thousand grams.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild project. And, so Destiny's a hot game, so it's not necessarily unusual for the replica universe to jump on it. But this is another really great project from Elliot Viles. So take a look at this. This is also up on my Mini Factory. This is not quite as ambitious for scale, but he spent a lot of time making all these parts individually and working out how to weather them. And he shares a lot of the process photos there up on the site to give you ideas not only how to make this thing, because you can download it and make it yourself, but also so you can learn from it so you can make your own projects. So having seen these and having seen all the really exciting costume elements that people in the Adafruit community have been making throughout this last month, we want to give a quick shout out to a couple of the parts repos online. So you can go and see, the feed as people are kind of launching some of the exciting Halloween projects. So I wanted to share just a couple pieces. We just have a couple minutes left. I'm going to share just a couple pieces from each of these.
Speed round.
Total speed round. So My Mini Factory completely rocked Halloween this year. So go take a look. They had a really neat contest and really encouraged a lot of new design work. And one of the things that's really cool about this is that here we go. They print everything that they allow to go up. So there's no sort of really cool renderings. All these things are printable. So here's a neat project, and a lot of these kind of designer superstars are actually in all three of these venues, by the way. So this is Sean, and he has shared this same project also to Umagine and Thingiverse. But these light projection things, kind of like the lamp that I showed earlier in this segment, are really neat. And a lot of this sort of thinking about how to plan for light patterns is coming out into the community. This is, I think, currently winning or has won their little Halloween contest there. It's a cute little sort of imp. Is up with dissection, printable dissection needle. Really gorgeous piece, and once again, proven to be quite lovely and printable. And I just sort of love this as a really handy add-on. It's just a skull clothespin. It's a quick print, but it makes things like your ship bag clothing, clothing needs kind of interesting.
Wow.
Okay. And so I'm going to leap right to Umagine. Umagine has a couple of things up, and like I said, a couple of these things are in a lot of different venues. I just wanted to highlight.
Oh, the spider did.
I think in our remaining time, I'd say, why don't you guys go and check this out? I love the spiderweb bowl, and quite lovely, and these spiders. And on Thingiverse, this is a sneak preview for next week. Jim is going to be our community spotlight next week. So go and see the wild feed that's always up on Thingiverse for every Halloween.
Yeah, it's a state of 3D printing this year.
That's for this week. So there's many more shared things up on the blog. And what else do we have? Where can we be found?
You can check out the projects, this week's project, and many other projects on the Adafruit Learning System. You can check out more posts and more goodness and cosplay and all sorts of electronics at our Google Plus page. Again, the 3D Thursday blog. And you can follow myself, Pedro, and Matt on Twitter, Thingiverses, and Instagrams, and any other place you might find us.
See you all next week.
Thanks for watching, guys.
We'll keep on printing.
And happy Halloween.
Yeah.